Asia, the new center of the world game. 1 in 2 football fans globally live on this continent. Here, homegrown legends rise and champions are crowned. Proud nations fly their colors and tribes of fans in booming cities unleash their energy. Intense, diverse. Here, local is king. It's a new era of Asian football, a new type of fandom, a new chapter to an historic story.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Sports Matters Academy. I nearly said Music Matters Academy then. My name is Jasper Donat, CEO of Branded, coming to you live from Singapore this morning. And I can prove it's live because there's mosquito fogging going on outside my door window. So if you hear any buzzing going on, that's what it is. The Sports Matters Academy is a series of virtual events designed to help people build a foundation for anyone interested in learning more about the sports business through the eyes and ears and the mentorship and knowledge sharing of some global industry icons. It's the business of sport here, taught through by some great friends of ours through the many years we've been working in Asia. The Sports Matters Academy is produced by, with, and for the sports business community, and throughout the series we'll be covering a number of topics that we think are important, covering all of the key parts of the sports business, sports marketing today, sporting rights that we did 2 weeks ago, working with brands, so sponsors, live events, data, player management, sports law, and the metaverse. Plus there'll be more subjects as well. And if you think we're missing anything, please write to me. Most of you know me anyway, but write to me and let me know if there's anything you'd like us to cover. Back to today, we're going right to the heart of the sports business and talking about sports marketing. And we're doing it across 2 sessions. This morning, right now here live, funnily enough, then a second show today at 4 o'clock Singapore. And if you can't make the 4 o'clock show, it's all going to be available on demand on the site. So everything's here. But right now it is virtual, it's live, and we're going fireside. But we also want to hear from you out there. So please, let's make it interactive. Get your questions in. I know a lot of you there know a lot of people speaking today. So please get your questions in, and let's have some fun. There is also a small private Meet the Speakers session immediately after this. You go back into the site. You need to just click into it later. But if you want to meet any of our speakers and say hello and ask them questions about your career or their career, then that happens immediately after this. So please join in. We have a limited number of spaces, and it fills up pretty fast. In a minute, I'm going to introduce you to our speakers this morning. But before that, as you will have noticed already, the Sports Matters Academy is 100% free to attend, and that's 100% thanks to our wonderful sponsors and partners, including Football Marketing Asia, Sports Singapore, and Sport Business. Plus, we are supported by our friends at Mailman, Asia Sports Tech, and Picture Board. So thank you so much to everyone for your support and making this available to as many people as possible. And finally, thank you out there in the World Wide Web. Thank you for joining. Please enjoy. Please learn. Please give me feedback. What's working about this, and is there anything missing? But also get your questions in the chat box there. They will be fed to me, and we'll get them to the speakers. So on the show, as we said, today we're talking about sports marketing. Your teams, your players, your leagues, your events, your clubs, your tournaments, they are all a brand, and brands need fans. But for most, the fans aren't going to come to you. You've got to take it to them. So today we are going to get advice, from rights owners, agencies, and brands to understand how to market your content, your athletes, your brands, and your events. In a minute, we're going to meet Football Marketing Asia Mailman and the lady who took Adidas to not 1 but 2 Olympic Games and now working for Sail Grand Prix. Later this afternoon, 4 o'clock, we are going to meet with the NBA, MPL, and moderated by our friend Unmish from Picture Board Asia. But this morning, if we can say hello to our 3 great speakers this morning, We have Erica Kerner. She is the Chief Marketing Communications Officer for SailGP. She's going to kick my head in for getting that wrong. We have Andrew Collins, who is the CEO of Mailman. We're going to meet you both in a second, but we are going to start with Florian Jungbauer, who is the SVP of Marketing at Football Marketing Asia. We'll meet the others shortly. So please get your questions in, and we can start asking them. But Florian, starting with you, please tell us, for those who don't know, who are you? Well, I've said you, Florian, but who are you? Where are you? What do you do for a living? And how did you get to where you are today? Because it's quite a fascinating journey.
Yeah, good morning, Jasper. I mean, thank you very much, first of all, for having me on the session today alongside Erica and Andrew. Really a pleasure to be here. And hi to everyone out there. Yes, you introduced, I'm Senior Vice President of Marketing at Football Marketing Asia. For those who are not familiar with us, we are the exclusive commercial partner for AFC competitions, Asian Football Federation competitions, in the right cycles between 2021 and 2028. The Asian Football Confederation essentially is the governing body in Asia, regulating the sports, regulating football in Asia, and organizing major national team and club competitions. So my remit spans across competition brands in general, marketing the brands and the competitions, fan engagement, and also sponsor partner activations. My journey, yeah, I mean, you sort of alluded to it. It's an interesting one. I know you also alluded to my music business background, but I'll try to rewind the clock a little bit further, actually. I actually studied production and logistics. So I started out in a fairly technical field and then worked brand side, but never really got into the technical part of it. Worked for a water technology company where I worked in sales and marketing, and that really sort of set me out on my marketing path. When I moved to Asia in 2009, I took over the helm of an advertising agency, and then led over the years advertising agencies in China, Hong Kong, and Indonesia. So I'm very familiar with the markets across Asia. And in 2015, I joined Universal Music as the APAC marketing head. So that was very interesting. Obviously, I mean, I brought a wealth of marketing experience with me, but of course, joining the entertainment business was a very unique opportunity and a very exciting one. So ultimately, in 2018, I did join Football Marketing Asia, and to me, really joining the sports industry was a very exciting step, because I believe that sports in general, but football in particular, and football in Asia in particular, is a fantastic form of entertainment. No music really. And it's a form of mass entertainment. It's a form of entertainment and excitement that resonates very well with a huge audience across Asia and the world, of course. And therefore, I'm very happy in the place where I am today.
Fantastic. And so if you're a production specialist, by the end of this, you'll have to give us some kind of review on how we're doing. So look, we're talking about marketing today, and before we get everyone together, I just wondered, how did you and the AFC? I mean, we're still going through 2 years of this global pandemic. It's meant that football, live events have mostly disappeared until recently, and what have you. And you're working across a huge region. How did you, Football Marketing Asia, and the AFC in partnership, how did you revitalize the brand during the pandemic?
Well, there's obviously I guess many components that were critical. I think one to mention up front is that as part of our prestigious mandate that we have with the AFC, we had an opportunity to look into the visual appearance of the competition brands. It was part of the project right from the start. So we had an opportunity to rejuvenate the visual aspects of the AFC competition brands, of the national team competition program and the major club competitions, which are the AFC Champions League and the AFC Cup. So we worked in very close collaboration, obviously, with the AFC and external partners, and very much based on insights and research in the market on rejuvenating the brands, on introducing elements that allowed us, or allowed the AFC now to convey a very strong, very uniquely Asian feel of its competitions, while also at the same time introducing more, I guess, dynamic visual elements, which come to life, of course, across all the touch points, be it in the stadiums, across broadcast and social media, of course. So that's not necessarily COVID related or COVID induced. That was a project that was part of the broader plan. But of course, we had to adjust our general approach in marketing terms and in communications terms, and so had the AFC, of course. Of course, everything was very much focused and continues to be very much focused on online media, very much focused on, of course, engaging fans in social media. If it wasn't important before that, which it was, then it certainly is important now. And it's absolutely a main medium to convey the marketing programs that are being put in place, and to keep fans updated and abreast with all the competitions.
Fantastic. So clearly you've been busy over the last, certainly busy over the last couple of years. Florian, we're going to come back to you when everyone comes back together. Next, we're going to say hello to one of the best known marketers in the sports business. I'm going to embarrass the hell out of her. Please, everyone, meet Erica Kerner. Erica, I will say we have known for quite a long time. There's no aging in there. But Erica, please, for those people who have just got off a spaceship from Mars, please, and maybe haven't heard of you, please, could you give us a little bit of your background? Who are you? Where are you? What do you do for a living? But let's hear about your journey to today, because it's absolutely fascinating.
Thanks, Jasper. Hi, I'm Erica Kerner, and I'm coming to you from Singapore this morning. So hi, everybody. I am currently the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for SailGP, which is adrenaline-fueled, fast racing on the water. It's the most incredible, high-octane, fun sport out there. And if you don't know us yet, you will be knowing us soon. But my career is a mix of brands and right holders. I have spent half of my life now, actually more of my life now, in Asia than I have in the United States. But I started my career, I always say I got my MBA at Nike, because the first 10 years of my career were with Nike, where I learned everything about marketing, about being bold, about taking chances, about working with all the biggest sports properties in the world, but also the biggest athletes in the world, as well as the grassroots young developmental athlete, as well as the fans. So, I joke about it, but if this is a Sports Matters Academy, that's where I got my degree and my MBA. From there, I went into advertising and launched Diet Pepsi in China, worked for De Beers in China, and a lot of great brands over in this part of the world. And then I decided to take a break and give back, and worked for the Special Olympics in China. At that time, I think we had about 50,000 kids in the program. And by the time I left, we had 500,000 kids in the program, and including ambassadors like Yao Ming and others, to really spread the message of inclusion throughout the Chinese market. But from there, you alluded to it, I went from Special Olympics to the Olympic Games. And I was with Adidas for 2 quads, for both the Beijing Olympic Games as well as the London Olympic Games. But I think in my career, I've worked on over 12 Olympic Games, so not just 2. So great Olympic experience. After that, I moved back to the brand side with Ralph Lauren, with Tiffany, who brought me to Singapore. And from there, joined One Championship, which is Asia's largest sports media property, top 10 in the world, according to Nielsen, in terms of fan engagement. But one of the fastest growing sports media properties in the world. And there I learned so much about fandom and how social media and digital are really changing the face of sports rights holders. And hopefully I'll take a lot of that experience with me to SailGP. So my background is really all about sport, luxury, and purpose, which is exactly what we've got at SailGP. So I think I've got the best job in the world. Sorry, Florian and Andrew. I think I win.
So tell us a little bit more about the job. I know, look, for everyone's benefit, you've literally only just started, right? I mean, I don't think you've even been to have you been to a race yet? But no. Tell us tell us a bit more about SailGP. Tell us about your role, and yeah, let's hear a little bit more about that.
Well, SailGP is we're still a young league. We're just about to finish season 2. Our championships are in San Francisco in 2 weeks' time. So that'll be the first race that I get to attend, and I'm super excited about that. But we are, as I said, adrenaline racing on the water. Think, I hate to say it, but think Formula One on the water. And that's what you're talking about. It's high octane and high adrenaline. But what I think makes us so special is we also want to be the world's most sustainable sports league. So we not only have one podium for the sport, but we have a second podium for social impact. And at the end of the season, we award 2 championship trophies. And that's a first in any sport, in any league worldwide. So I think that's something pretty incredible.
Fantastic. So we're all going to be hanging on to you for tickets for various sailing events around the world, so we can come and hang out with billionaires on their yachts and stuff. So Erica, thank you. Well, congratulations on the new role, and what a fascinating. And you were the head of marketing for Tiffany for a while as well, right? For quite a long time. So you've had an amazing, extraordinary career so far. So we're very lucky to have you. We're going to get you back shortly. And remember, everyone out there who's watching, please, if you want to ask Andrew, Florian, or Erica any questions, please get them in the chat, and they'll be fed to me. Up next, we're going to meet another old friend. I'm just talking to lots of old friends. That's the beauty of these academies, is I get to meet my mates. Andrew Collins, the CEO of Mailman. Same question to you. Who are you? Where are you? What do you do for a living? And how did you get to where you are today?
Good question, Jasper. I'm still trying to figure the second last question out, as you just said it, because my world's changed quite a lot since moving to Singapore, where I am now. But I moved to China in 2006, where I acquired a very small marketing agency called Mailman. We're about 4 staff deep, and our main product was selling postcard media in China. But I was a 26-year-old young, brash, bullish entrepreneur, and figured I could transform the company. So fast forward maybe 10 to 12 years later, we'd built, I say we, because we have an incredible team in China, which you know very well, Jasper. We spent 12 years.
I knew you when you were selling postcards, mate. So yeah. Anyway,
there you go. So I spent 12 years at the same company building it, and we eventually built a global sports digital agency. We have went from the 4 staff back in 2006 to over 250 across about 50 markets in the world. 50 people full-time in London, about 140 in Shanghai, another 60 across this region. And yeah, our primary role has been just to help global rights holders build their businesses around the world. We focus on digital, so really helping them tell their story, understanding local nuances, local platforms, and find the best way to tell those stories. And started in China, and then we built it throughout the world. And my role, I led the group up until our recent acquisition by Endeavour. So we're now part of the Endeavour group. We work closely with 160over90, the global marketing business, and also IMG globally at helping them transform digitally what they do and how they do it. And that's us.
Thank you again for joining. Now the Academy is a global, it's a virtual event, so it's global by default. But you and I are sitting in Singapore at the moment. So I want to just talk a little bit about your experience of the challenges of you've worked with a lot of international sports brands, teams, clubs, players, you name it, to bring them to Asia. What are the main challenges of bringing? So you've worked with some huge brand names, but also some small ones as well. What are the main challenges of launching the global sports brands in Asia? I think specifically China as well. I mean, how do you make an English football team relevant in China if they're all speaking English?
Well, lucky for us, for English football, they're already widely well known as the EPL have been a dominant football league for the past decade. So most of the big international names have global audiences already. And our business really grew off the back of global media rights expanding and, more distribution of football and basketball and tennis and mixed martial arts, as Erica talked about in Asia. But I think the biggest challenge today is how to be effective with limited budgets and limited time. I genuinely believe no one really launches in Asia across every market at once. So the challenge is understanding if I was a tennis property or a mixed martial arts property or a European football club, and let's say a second tier European football club, is where do I tell my story? Because I can't tell it everywhere, and I can't tell it everywhere at the same time because I don't have the budget or the resources to do it. And Asia, so you've got Southeast Asia, Northern Asia, China in its own ecosystem. You're looking at 15 different social media and short form video platforms. You need to understand how they operate in each of those markets. So I think Asia presents the most challenges for international rights holders, and the better they work with people in the region who understand the nuances in those markets, the more effective they will be. And I think China typically has been the first start for most organizations. They go in with a full China strategy. And I think that's the right approach because it is the biggest population in Asia, and it is a closed ecosystem. And outside that, then it's really understanding, what are the secondary markets organizations want to market in, and then understanding how we're going to see, how we're going to get money back in those regions over the short term as they expand new markets. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It does. I mean, again, so this is global, and I don't want anyone to think we're just talking about Asia. We're not, but it's a very relevant challenge for marketers around the world to come to this part of the world. And we've said this a lot, whether it's the Music Academy, Sports Academy, there is no such thing as Asia. You have to pick a market, right? So Andrew, thank you so much for joining. We're now going to, through the wonders of modern technology, everyone hopefully is going to appear on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, everyone's there. It worked.
It's a Brady Bunch.
It is. Now, we have our first question from the World Wide Web. And this is from, it's just disappeared. Sebastian Lopez, who's the CEO of Jolt Digital, I believe in Singapore. Erica, when will the first, this has got nothing to do with sports marketing whatsoever. When will the first SailGP races happen?
Well, we're just about to finish our second season. So the next race is March 26th and 27th in San Francisco, and that's the season finale. And then season 3 will start in Bermuda in May. But if you follow us on social media, you'll have all the information on how to watch come up for the event that's coming up in 2 weeks. So I'm really excited to get on a plane on Friday to get out to San Francisco and meet the athletes and really jump right in.
And are you taking any friends? Okay, well, moving on. We have a question from Sebastian as well. Sebastian's winning the MVP for questions. Andrew, how did you develop Mailman from a startup to a scale-up?
Well, in different parts of the world, it's probably a different answer, but I did it in China. I think most importantly is first year or two to understand the market and just understand what your role is going to be in that market. So I'd say that's first step. And I'm focused really just on China right now because that's where I built my business. So understand your role and what role you'll have in that economy and make sure it's a position that you can build competitively. And number two, I would say, focus on building a solid team that you're going to build the business around. And if you get those two things right early in the first 18 months to 2 years, and then just go as hard as you can on and building your brand, telling the story, constantly communicating the category that you're in. For us, it was sports digital. And for us, it was just around education, like building more confidence for global rights holders in China. So helping them be educated, understand that they can invest in the market. So from going from a startup to a scale up, as your question, I think, just get the foundations right. And then you just want to run as hard as you can, because it became for us as well so competitive, particularly in China.
Thank you, Sebastian. We will have you hosting one of these shows before you know it. Okay, so back to the main topic of sports marketing. I'm going to ask you, how do you define sports marketing? What does it mean? And let's start with you, Florian, because you've been the most patient waiting now. But how would you define sports marketing, either you or Football Marketing Asia?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think in very simple terms, I think it's really about providing a form of entertainment for the masses, especially in the case of football. It's also about providing and delivering value to fans beyond the newswire, right? Beyond what they can sort of obtain in terms of information from, coverage by newspapers and other news sources. So it's all about creating the excitement in a competition, or it's athletes, obviously. The individuals play a huge role in that as well, right? And to provide a sense of closeness, I guess, to the sports that people have already established a very strong passion for and with.
Brilliant. Same question. I'm going to ask Erica as let's if I could ask you to put your brand hat on. How would you define sports marketing?
Well, it's interesting. Sports marketing has changed so much over my career. When I started, and again, I started at Nike, who, I would say probably Adidas did create sports marketing way back in the day with the Dassler brothers. But Nike is who really took it a step forward and took it out of just being about outfitting athletes to making them brand assets and building the brand. I think a lot of people on this call may be too young, but a lot of us remember the Air Jordan and the image of Michael Jordan dunking the basketball, and that became the logo for now what's its own brand, which I think is the number 2 basketball brand in the United States as brand Jordan. So sports marketing is so many things to a brand. It can be a source of product inspiration. It can be an athlete endorsement, but it's really about how do you take that relationship and make it a 360-degree communication that's going to inspire and excite a fan or a consumer. So I think sports marketing has really changed over the years. And as we go into Web3 and the metaverse, what it's going to become is going to be something completely different, because today I think fans are very used to interacting with athletes through a screen. But once we get into the metaverse, the way that you can interact with your favorite athletes and teams and properties is going to completely change once again. So I think sports marketing is still evolving.
And it's changed. I mean, you think about how a lot of and we'll come on to social next, but Erica, you think about how all of a sudden teams, clubs, and leagues have had to really learn how to market to the individual, right? It's to go to the fan.
Yeah, it's funny. When I worked again back at Nike, we did a campaign where we sent a film crew for about 6 months backstage with the Brazilian national football team, and really gave people a look. We used to call it behind the curtain of what really happened. And that was something only a brand like Nike could do. At that point, nobody else was doing it, and only Nike could do that. But now you look at social media and what can happen, and everyone's able to go behind the curtain. That's one of the things I think the pandemic has really done, is brought you into the homes of the athletes, brought you behind the scenes, let you see things that in the past were all private. The athlete wouldn't show you. Rafa Nadal wouldn't show you his home, wouldn't show you his pets, or athletes' kids. Now you're seeing that. And I think fans aren't going to let you go back. They're going to demand that. And so I think that's, again, really going to change how brands and athletes and leagues and teams communicate and interact with fans, because it can't just be a one-way dialogue anymore. I think people are going to demand that be a two-way dialogue, and they have more access.
And to that point, Jasper, just to add to Erica's point, then you touched on social and athletes exposing more of their life. A good example is if you look at Cristiano Ronaldo's Instagram page, I think he's the number 1 or 2 followed athlete in the world, I think, on Instagram. 2 years ago, we did an analysis on a year-long stream of posts from him on Instagram. And we put them in 5 different buckets, but one of the buckets was personal. And that was all showing his personal life, him boarding a jet, sometimes a little selfie, him with the family. He often did pics of his family and his wife. The personal stuff performed with the highest engaged content of anything he was doing for that year on Instagram. And a decade ago, we weren't seeing that because you just didn't have the tools for athletes to be able to do it. And also, I think when social first launched, clubs and organizations were very conscious about, players saying the wrong things, but that whole power shift is gone now. NBA have done a great job of that, where they've been player-led organizations. So you look at effective marketing today, or effective sports marketing, it's really, I think it's becoming increasingly dependent on the organization's relationship with their athletes. And if an organization has really fluid, authentic, empowering relationships with their athletes, they can get a lot more out about the stars and the players that make up the sport, even if it's sail, or if it's mixed martial arts, or if it's EPL. So more and more marketing is being driven by athletes.
And is it? I mean, are you seeing that? Are you saying that the athletes are in the shop window, but then the rest of it is going on behind the scenes when you walk into the store?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the table tennis on the weekend here, and I thought the product was actually awesome. Like, the experience was great. They had new lighting, new sound. They were playing hip hop music and rap music, and the staging was great. But you could also see that the dynamic with the players and the openness of the players with the product that they were selling wasn't there yet. You mean that there was so much more that the players could give, because we just didn't know enough about the players and the personalities. So, the biggest the most profitable organizations in the world are player-led or athlete-led, star-led. We just love the stories to learn about them. So, yeah, the better you can get at telling those stories, same for Florian in Asia, right? With football, the better you can tell those local stories, the more people want to come out and cheer those local heroes on.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Flo, just Flo. Sorry, going from the player. When you're running such a massive region flow for the AFC, how have you embraced social? Because it took a long time for the rest of the world to catch up with what players were doing. As Andrew was saying, you've got Ronaldo taking selfies all over the place and stuff, and teams just took a long time, and everywhere took a long time to catch up. I remember actually there was at Sportsman's one year, I won't say his name, it was a former Manchester United player, once said that players should never be allowed on Twitter. But this was a long time ago, because they were saying some silly things and what have you. But Flo, how have you seen teams and leagues catching up?
Well, I think, look, generally we can certainly see that across Asia, across all the member associations, across the clubs and the athletes that are performing in these clubs and teams, they're all very active in social media naturally, right? I mean, they're building their own brand essentially as well, right? and therefore they certainly arrived in that world, and so has, of course, the wider industry, the Asian Football Confederation, of course, and the fans as well, who are demanding that. Erica said there's probably no way back now from a much more sort of personal elements in the content mix, and I do certainly agree with that. So it's certainly that the AFC has embraced very much over the last couple of years, especially also more and more driven by, of course, the fact that live attendance in stadiums wasn't possible, and therefore the only channel really to communicate with fans is social media, or probably the most engaged with channel. But there's other aspects as well, right? So that you have I guess the sort of player-led, player-centric aspects on the one hand, but Jasper, you mentioned the vast geographical area that we're covering. In Asia alone, we're looking at 47 member associations of the Asian Football Confederation, all the way from Beirut to Brisbane, as we always say. So all the way from the east to all the way to the west, and the other way around, sorry. and what's really hugely important there is to strike a balance in terms of localization of content. Now, localization can mean many things. It can mean obviously localizing the language in which you speak to and communicate to the fans. But much more than that, it also means putting the right content in front of the local audiences, like content that really resonates with them, right? Content of their teams or teams or even opposing teams in that creates either an interest or spark sort of regional or local rivalries, for example. So it's very, very important to plan content very well, to understand the markets, what resonates, and obviously to continuously improve and optimize, right? I mean, social media is not a game where you set up a strategy once and then it doesn't really change. I mean, Andrew, Erica, I'm sure you can approve of that very much. Andrew, in your position as an agency, especially, it's an ongoing optimization game, sometimes an improvisation game, right? And I think remaining very flexible, remaining open to opportunities that come up and exploiting them as they present themselves is really important.
Jasper, I think there's one other thing to mention, is that it's also an education responsibility, I think, for all of us here as rights holders, as brands, as agencies, is to help educate athletes as well. Just because they're an athlete doesn't mean that they know how to use social media and they have the skills, whether it's media training, social media training. I think we also have an obligation to help them understand how to best use the platform and how to best present themselves, because it's not a skill that's innate. It's something that really is learned and cultivated. And so, as you define what is sports marketing, part of, I think, our responsibility is to help educate and help grow and protect the athletes as they go on their journey, not just use them for our purposes of marketing.
And well, they're human beings, right? I mean, I think that goes to say for everyone as well. So we've had another question from Eleanor in Sydney, and this is, let's start with you, Erica. What does success look like, and how do you measure it?
Well, I think success is growing our fandom and continuing to grow our fan base exponentially. We're a small league. We're just starting out, but we have big ambitions. So success would be tripling our fan base year on year. And that would be measured by data. And I think we'll talk about data later, but data needs to drive and inform every decision of our business.
Andrew, how do you measure success for your brands, not for Mailman?
Yeah, it depends on what the objectives are. Like Erica just said, she's trying to build an audience first and foremost. Some organizations just want to sell tickets or sell commercial rights or increase their media rights value. I think from a digital perspective, it's typically growth and engagement, not just growth. And as many products, like if you look at the NBA, like there's more people that follow the NBA on short form highlights than people watch the NBA in its entirety. So the consumption has completely changed. But then it begs the question though, are those fans as valuable as a fan who watches the game in its entirety to sit down? Well, they are often even more passionate, but they're watching like 10 games, but they're watching the 10 games in 5 minutes each. So they're actually covering more of the league and just as enthusiastic. So the challenge for any marketer is understanding what are your goals and are they realistic? How do you measure it? Are they valued right? Are digital rights valued? Are our media rights valued right? And so it's always changing. But first and foremost, it's up to the organizations to decide what is success for them.
Florian.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, we're obviously chasing multiple objectives, right, on the marketing front as well as on the commercial front. Erica mentioned it briefly, an insights and data-driven and led approach is really important in both, determining what success should look like, could look like, and also in tracking progress, obviously. Broadly and in fairly simple terms, we're looking obviously at in the social media and in the marketing realm at still vanity metrics. So growth is a vanity metric. Obviously, it's a very obvious one, but is often also the one that commercial partners do pay attention to very much as a first indicator of whether the property is successful or not, and resonates with people and draws people's attention. Then we look very much at quality engagement metrics. Andrew mentioned that obviously the level and rate of engagement with a certain piece of content or a content strand is extremely important. And it's important for us, especially because quality engagement ultimately allows us to attach a value to the content that is being put out and then attach a value for our commercial partners. So we have tools in place that allow us to visually track the appearance of our partners' brands on, for example, in an image on social media, in a clip in social media, same as what we'd be doing on the broadcast side as well. And attaching a value, a real hard US dollar value to that is an extremely important step in innovation that we've introduced. And clearly on the broadcast side, we're looking at audience metrics, which are hugely important for the broadcasters and media partners themselves. And we're looking at sponsorship exposure equally on broadcast, which is important for the sponsorship partners. And of course, hopefully, once we're through COVID and the pandemic and all the related issues, then we'd be looking at better in-stadium participation again.
You touched on data there, Florian. So Andrew, back to you, and for all the social. You've done a lot of social campaigns stuff. Silly question, maybe. Does data matter?
Of course. Where I spent the most part of my last decade, data was challenging because there's so much fluff and hype within the Chinese platforms. Now that's changing a little bit now too. Government's done a digital crackdown on all these platforms. So that is changing and you're getting more authentic data in China, but you can't really take that data outside China. So that creates a challenge for rights holders as well. But like looking beyond China, I think data will help shape the strategy. Like if you look at the metaverse now, I think most organizations are at least having a conversation around what's our strategy on the metaverse. But the reality is most in Asia don't have the technology to enable them to have a better experience in a digital space than a real world experience because they don't have the funds to buy the technology required to utilize the best technology today. So the metaverse is still evolving around the world in different parts. But I think in Asia, it's going to be some years before we're seeing really rich digital experiences within this sort of metaverse concept. But data will drive a lot more about what people are doing and where they're going. So that's important.
Okay, well, on this data subject, I'm just going to shamelessly promote that next Thursday, the next session in the Sports Matters Academy is Data Matters on the 24th of March. So anyone watching will get more information about that soon. Erica, data, has it been a big part of your career?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, and I think everyone has mentioned, data is incredibly important. And when I started at Nike, it was really funny because at that point, research and insights was really a dirty word, actually. Nike believed that it was all about gut feel, not research. And even when I worked for Ralph Lauren, Mr. Lauren believed that he knew what the customer needed better than what the customer thought they needed, which is what fashion is. So I grew up in a world where data wasn't so important. But having now been on the brand side with brands like Tiffany, with rights holders with One and with SailGP, data is incredibly important. It's the foundation of everything that we do. We need to know our customers. We need to know our fans. We need to know what platforms they're using, what their likes are, what's bringing them to our sport, how do we bring in new fans to the sport, and data can inform all of those decisions. So without data, we can't make the right decisions as marketers. And I think for our sponsor partners, it's the same. How do we convince them that they should be in sailing or mixed martial arts versus going into football? How do we show them that we are the better platform for them to attract the fans that they want for their brands? Again, it all comes back to data. So I think as a young sports marketing exec, if you can understand the analytics, the insights, the data, that's going to be a key to developing your career. I think without it, the world has changed and everything goes back to a data platform if you're a brand or if you're a rights holder.
It used to be like the nerdy subject, right? And it was like, how many ratings did I get? Thanks. And if you didn't get many ratings, then you blame the research department. So that was a long time ago. So look, we're starting to run a little bit short on time. We've got a couple more questions that have come in from outside. So I'm gonna ask the first one here, which is, and let's start maybe with Andrew. Out of curiosity, how are metrics for social media fans measured? Is it unique views? They are likely free to watch and non-buyers. Is the point to grab their attention in the hopes for future monetization? And that is from Yun Chang from CSPS. Thank you, Yun Chang.
Good question. So just breaking it down, how are they measured? Largely by engagement, follower growth. And that's a sort of primary, that's like the top tier engagements. But the platform can give you so much more than that, like time watching videos, sharing, connections with those first degree people watching your content and engaging with your content. By unique views, yes, of course, that's important. People want as many individuals to engage with your content as possible. And then the last point around what is the point to grab their attention for future monetization? Every sports property just wants to make money at the end of the day. So make no mistake of that. So every decision really has to come back to how do we generate a return on this investment? If we're going to spend $100,000 in social in Japan, what is our likelihood of return on that? And where does that digital investment see value? And I believe that most organizations underweight the expectation on digital returns in the short term. But overweight the returns in the long term as well. So, yeah, I think it's the market's changing and the consumer behavior is shifting, right? So the younger audiences are not watching as much longer form content. That's a fact. We're seeing this everywhere. But you're also seeing in the US, like NFL having record year of engagement and viewership. So there's other pockets of the world that maybe that's off the back of COVID or not, but you're seeing some disruption to that. But digital, first and foremost for us, is the most engaged platform for you to communicate whatever it is you're communicating. And you don't always have to see a return on that communication platform.
Fantastic answer. So there's been a few people touching on the metaverse and what have you. We have a question from a former colleague, Mr. Marcus Cam at Gemdale Sports in China. Following on from Erica's lead on the buzzword of metaverse, how does everyone see a sports event can prepare and adapt for this new paradigm? Good question. Florian, can we go to you first? Where do you see the metaverse fitting in with something like football?
Yeah, well, look, I think that there are huge opportunities that will open up in future. But to be quite frank, we're not yet there, right? I think we are, as individuals and an organization, still learning what this is really about. Andrew mentioned earlier that, of course, the technical capabilities, the investment that is needed, may be a challenge as well, right? Because if you not only dabble into it, but if you go, if you are opening a route into the metaverse and say, for example, bring a draw or maybe even a competition or an award ceremony into this sort of virtual environment, you want to make it a better experience for the fan, right? Better than it is in real life. And I think this is where we're still trying to understand how this could be done, right? I think there's still a lot of opportunities outside the metaverse, so make no mistake with that as well, because we often, marketers tend to always think about the next big thing, sort of like 2 years, 3 years down the road, and how can we make use of it? How can we benefit from it? But at the same time, we mustn't lose sight on the low-hanging fruit that is right in front of us, and there's plenty of avenues still to be explored in social media with regards to content overall, with regards to personalization, for example, based on data. That links back to the data, obviously, and the insights that we have about fans. So generally, and personally, I'm very open. I'm certainly very excited about these new opportunities, but at the same time, I think we'll have to take it step by step, be realistic about it, and really identify the right time to approach fans with an offering that will ultimately perceive to be better or enhancing or an enhanced version of the real life experience.
Yeah, and I think the metaverse is obviously the buzzword, but I mean, we're really talking about, Web3 and what that brings to life and what possibilities. The metaverse in itself is probably a number of years off in reality, but there's already things that brands are doing. I mean, at One Championship, we were already filming all of our fights so that you can view them on an Oculus and actually go in and watch the fight on your Oculus in your living room like you're in the stadium. So there's already things that I think rights holders and brands can do to explore new technologies and new innovations for fan experience. But I think the more interesting short term is talking about blockchain and NFTs and DAO teams and things like that may change the sport even on a faster basis.
Fantastic. So we are pretty much out of time. Tori has sent a very good question. But what we're going to say is I'm going to ask one more question to everyone, and then there is a meet the speaker session later, and so maybe we can ask the questions we haven't had time for in that session as well. But the real question is now looking forward. Nothing to do with sports marketing, but more to do with you and your careers and stuff, and what you're doing right now with sport and what have you. What's really exciting for you right now? And I'm going to ask Andrew first. And there's a caveat to that question, just specifically for Andrew. Someone called Chris in Singapore has asked, "How did you break your nose?"
Did he? Did Chris really ask that? I did break my nose for the viewers at home. I did run into my sliding glass door, and I have surgery on Thursday. So if you all want to drop by Mount Elizabeth Hospital in Singapore,
live on Thursday. Anyway, what's really other than your impending nose job?
Beyond the obvious issues with the nose, I am most excited about learning what are the technologies that are going to emerge out of Southeast Asia over the next decade that will transform the sports and entertainment industries. And so that's where I'm spending a lot of my time, like understanding who are the entrepreneurs, what are the early stage technologies that will have the most impact, and making sure that we're across that, either investing or playing some role at seeing it through.
Can you go down one level deeper on that? What is there? Have you seen anything that is really exciting?
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, it's funny, Erica mentioned the Oculus. I think that's a great example where the experience is great. You know, you're shooting all this content within the ability to watch it on the Oculus. But in Asia, you know, how many people can afford the Oculus? So unless the cost of technology comes down, then the experience isn't really, you know, you're not serving this audience out here. But there's so many young entrepreneurs now, more empowered in Southeast Asia, who are very attuned with the way like Thai people or Indonesia people or Vietnam, India people engage with technology. So I think it's more likely that new technologies will come out of those regions over the next few years rather than the West putting in the Oculus into Asia and trying to get people to consume it. So that's where we're spending time.
Cool. Florian, what's really exciting for you right now?
Well, rather than seeing a light at the end of the COVID tunnel, I think there's a number of things that are very exciting, and not speaking about technologies. I'm trying to I'm thinking of the AFC Asian Cup coming up in China, being hosted in China next year in 2023. It's essentially the equivalent to the Euros. It's Asia's biggest national team competition, which we're all very excited about. But not only us and the AFC, but especially also commercial partners, right? So it's a huge opportunity, obviously a huge platform, an international platform that allows us and enables us to put fantastic and very exciting marketing programs in place, but at the same time also a huge platform for the commercial partners, obviously. So that's certainly a very exciting one. And then I think more broadly and in general, I think our vision of, or our mission that we're on to really bring Asian football to elevate it to a world stage, basically, right, and make it resonate with bigger fan bases outside of Asia. That's certainly a very exciting journey. If you think about it, we have broadcast coverage in close to 200 countries now. There's only so many countries in Asia, so we have literally global coverage with Asian football, and that's really exciting, because we are now sort of transcending Asia and departing from Asia only, and communicate to an audience that is really international, right? And that will also have to be followed by our social media approach, by the way we're engaging fans then in the longer term and in off season.
Final word, Erica, what is really exciting for you right now?
Well, I mentioned before, one of the reasons I joined SailGP was our purpose-led agenda and wanting to be the most sustainable sports league in the world. For us, it's all about better sport, better planet. And one of the things I'm really excited about, shameless plug, at our grand finals in 2 weeks' time, is that we're going to award our first ever Impact League champion, as well as our Performance League champion. And that's something, to me, that's never been done in any sport. It's truly a first. And it's something we hope other sports leagues will start to do, is not only measure the performance on sport, but the performance on the social impact that our teams can have all around the world. And so to me, to be a part of something that I'm so passionate about, saving the world, saving the planet, saving the oceans, and have that be part of an incredible fast action sports league, I think is really exciting. And I can't wait for fans to get to see it too.
Fantastic. Well, what a wonderful way to finish off this brilliant session. I've written a few notes. Now, someone yesterday, Lauren Orris at Asia Sports Tech in Hong Kong, suggested that I wrap this up into 3 key takeaways. How am I going to do that? It's impossible. Sorry, Lauren, you can't do 3. You can do 10. But we talked about engaging. We talked a lot about. So this is all about sports marketing. So we talked a lot about engaging fans in social. It's not just about the views anymore. We talked about picking a market. Certainly when you come into Asia Pacific, there's no such thing as Asia. We talked about building your brand, educate your fans. We talked about it being a 360-degree communication. We talked about being accessible, start a conversation, pick your content, create a spark. It's engagement versus views equals value for partners. And that was a very interesting statement there. Understand data. And tune in on the 24th of March to the Data Matters session. Understand your data because it will help you know your fans. You have to know your fans. We talked about sports technology a little bit. And we talked about the metaverse is coming, but it has to be. I love this insight, by the way, that Florian said. It has to be better than real life. That was really cool. So look, thank you to Erica, Florian, and Andrew. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, if you want to meet them, go back into the main site, and then you can click on the link, and they'll be in a private meet and greet session where we can continue this conversation. So hopefully we can ask Tori's question. But yes, coming up next, 4:00 this afternoon, we're continuing the sports marketing conversation with the NBA and MPL with Unmish moderating that. Next Tuesday, we have our first Gaming Matters Academy. So if you're into gaming, esports, anything to do with that world, the metaverse will be brought up again there. 22nd of March. Look out for details on that. And as I may have mentioned, we've also got our Data Matters session coming up on the 24th. So thank you so much for joining, and get your feedback in. As I said, if you want to meet the speakers now and talk a little bit more about your careers and stuff, we'll see you backstage in the room. So thank you for joining Sports Matters.